Your perception is the only reality that you can and are experiencing. Your assumption is your perception. You're assuming something. I really want to dive into the topic of assuming because, like Neville Goddard talked about, the law of assumption, what we assume, this is the world that we live in. And every person is experiencing their own personal assumptions. And I want to share with you an amazing success story from one of my clients who shared with me yesterday about something that he experienced recently over the weekend that blew his mind. Welcome, my name is Rose and welcome to The Rosey Life, where we help you free your mind and follow your heart so you live a life that you love deliberately on purpose, that you choose, that you assume, and that you perceive, and that is what you get. So if you're interested in working one-on-one with me, you can go to TheRoseyLife.com and read the different options. And if you would like to join the Rosey Life course and community, where we have a private forum and you can ask questions, share success stories. There's more than a dozen self-paced lessons for you to start going within instead of looking out there for changes. You can go to TheRoseyLife.com and read all about it. All right, so let's get started. So I want to start off with this quote. And this quote is actually from Ernest Holmes. And he says, "The spirit knows and the law obeys." The spirit knows, meaning the spirit is that Christ mind. And that is what you are utilizing when you imagine something. Okay, it is not just you having thoughts. It is your power within. It is that conscious of Christ that is within you, and that you are one with that Father within, with a great I am. The Spirit knows. It means it has a knowing, a conviction. It doesn't try. It doesn't effort. It doesn't guess. It doesn't look at obstacles. The Spirit knows. And then once the Spirit knows, this is the law obeys. Well, that law is also who you are. You are everything, remember? But that law is the unfolding, is that mystical or mysterious how things unfold, how it can happen, how it is happening in ways that you don't know. In like other videos that I've said, my ways are not your ways. So the Spirit knows, you declare something, and then the law obeys you. Do you see? The law just, it turns on. It turns on. But let's dive deeper into this, because many of you think that the law or doing manifesting is just to get what you want, but you're already doing it, but you're using it unknowingly in ways that you don't like. All right, so the law of assumption, right? That's what Neville Goddard is known for. Law of assumption is to believe something that is real without the evidence. That's you making an assumption. And then you learn about law of assumption and you're just like, okay, let me use this. Let me see if I can do this, right? I want to manifest something. I'm going to assume stuff, right? But you're not allowing yourself to believe it without the evidence. You're looking for the evidence, and in order to believe it, and calling that an assumption, right? Well, you guess what? A lot of people say, how do I assume something? How do I do it? How do I don't know how to make an assumption. I've tried and it's not working. I've affirmed it. I've imagined it, because all of those visuals and imaginal acts, those are assumptions too. So anything you write, anything that you declare, and you're like, this is just how it is, those are assumptions. So some people say, well, how do you assume something, right? Well, guess what? I have great news for you. You guys are, all of you, every single one of us are professional assumers. All of us, every single one. We have this stuff nailed down. All of you are master assumers. But what are you assuming? That is the question. So I want to share with you a story of one of the Rosey Life clients. And he went to an event recently over the weekend, and it was an event for his daughter's graduation. And he had not gone to his hometown for quite a while, and he ran across some people and that he knew from years ago, that he said specifically there was one that when he saw him, he almost like rolled his eyes, because he was like, that guy was such a jerk, and he was always stuck up. and he was just nasty, not someone that I wanted to talk to or be around, and he was just rude to him and kind of looked down on him. Well, guess what happened at the event? Remember, now my client has been shifting into a new version of himself, declaring himself to be a man that he wants to be, that he loves who he is, he loves his life, he gets what he wants. Do you see? He has been shifting, and even with that shifting, sometimes we don't see the results outwardly immediately, but with your persistence, which we work together a couple times a week sometimes, and he is persistent. And even though he may have doubts, even though you have doubts, even though my client has doubts sometimes and he feels like he slips away, or he feels like it feels like he's back to square one, right? Even though he feels that, the law is still working. The law obeys, because my client's already declared that he is this man, and the law is unfolding and obeying. How? What the evidence? He didn't even have to visualize this person that he used to know as kind of a jerk. He didn't have to visualize and change him. He didn't have to say, oh, I'm deciding that he is cool now. No. He is changing, and because he is changing, he's beginning to see the evidence in people around him. So now he goes to this event, and that same person that was nasty walks up to him, and he was nice and kind to me, my client said. He was nice. And my client was almost shocked, beside himself, that this person that used to be really like a snob and nasty and jerky with him is now nice and smiling and approachable. And my client was like pleasantly surprised, but still surprised. And he said even one of his kids said, whoa, wasn't he a jerk? And my client said, not anymore, apparently. Do you see? But what happened? Many people think, oh, well, that person changed, and no, you changed. My client changed. And that is why the reflection must begin to reflect him, and it reflects it immediately within, and then outside is what the unfolding, you start seeing it more and more. And even my client, like, he slips up sometimes, and he's just like, well, why isn't it working with these other people in my life yet? And I said, just stand fast, because it has to work with everyone. You're just starting to see the unfolding, the evidence of who you say you are. So what happened? The client is what happened. Nothing else. The client is who changed his assumption about himself, right? And he did experience that he had an ex there, and he said that she was not nice to him. And she kind of turned her back on him. And I said, well, what did you expect? And he said that she's sad and angry, and she's not happy to see him. And that is what his experience was. And then he said he experienced an interaction with a sister of the ex, and that person was sweet to him and said hi. And I said, well, what did you expect? He said, she's always been nice to me. Do you see? It's so simple and obvious. It's what you assume and what you're expecting about others and of yourself is what you must experience. So let's get to assumptions. And this reminded me of, as a therapist, and I mentioned this in another video, that I used to teach my clients something called ants in your pants, automatic negative thoughts, right? That this is what people are accustomed to. And even in my video yesterday, I mentioned that people are in a habit of being unhappy and expecting things to not work out. And therefore they just go in that direction, thinking that that's their normal, that they're not going to get what they want. And that's why they struggle, they say, to stay in their wish fulfilled. They're not used to being happy and thinking the best thoughts about themselves and assuming the best. So what is it that you are all of us are professionals at? We're all professionals at assuming. And for those of you who say, how do I assume? You're already doing it. You're already doing it to a fine key. Assume, okay? So what you're doing, what most people are good at is automatic negative assumptions. Okay, so you are used to this. You are used to automatically assuming that it won't work. You're automatically assuming, weighing pros and cons as if there were pros. Everything is cons. Get rid of the pros and cons list and write down all your pros. There are only pros, not cons. See? So expecting that there's something bad on the other side, or something bad that's hiding in the closet, or hiding behind the good, or waiting for the other shoe to drop, that's all the stuff that you just let go of. You're already used to assuming the worst. You're assuming that people are going to behave a certain way. You're used to assuming that you're not going to get what you want, or that it's going to be hard, or it's going to take a long time. That is why you're experiencing it taking a long time. That is why you're experiencing the people acting the way they do. That is why you're experiencing what's in your bank account, because you're assuming this is your fate. This is your destiny. Do you see? You're automatically assuming. You are assuming, I promise you. You are assuming, but you're assuming negatively. But you can choose. And just like you have this professional skill under your belt, you can also now use it to automatically have automatic positive or loving assumptions. You can equally do this. You can assume the worst, you can assume the best. I know you guys heard that, right? If you can assume the worst, you can assume the best, and no one's stopping you. You're just more comfortable, and you're almost like feel at home making automatic negative assumptions. And then you go down here and assume something positive, and you call yourself delusional. You call yourself, that's wishful thinking, that you have to do something to make it happen. You're not calling yourself delusional when you're assuming the worst. Why don't we call that delusional instead of positive or loving assumptions? How about we start calling the negative assumptions delusional, because they are, because there's only God, there's only love, there's only good, and you're just choosing to assume the worst case scenario for yourself. Now, a little bit, part 2, you guys, busted out the second board. Little wise boards are multiplying. Okay, so another way that I want to show you guys, and some of this I got from Ernest Holmes, but other of it, it's just a mishmash, you guys, at this point, of Course in Miracles, of different things that I've studied in the Bible and scriptures, and things with my therapy days. I just kind of, everything's kind of just like it, because there's only one. You see, it's unity. So anything you read, anything you study, it's going to sound similar and familiar, because it all comes back to oneness, that everything points into the same direction. So this is what most teachers and spiritual teachers and books and coaches talk about, right? There's different ways of manifesting, and the way that I have evolved into, because I'm not going to sit up here and tell you I started this way, because I didn't, but the way I have evolved into teaching and coaching and even living my own life is what I'm going to share you with up here. Now, you have the choice on when you focus, study, and you realize where you're manifesting from, or why you can manifest, right? Or why things are possible for you even, right? We can have either the way of looking at this as deductive reasoning, thinking from the top down, or wholeness, or where assumptions lie, the I am all-knowing, I'm the all. Okay, this is that deductive reasoning. So you're looking at things from the whole, okay? And believing is seeing. That's another looking at things from the wholeness of who you are, from the allness of who you are, from that infinite potential and possibilities, from that infinite states of consciousness that we have. Believing is seeing. So you're skipping all the need to prove, all the need to understand it. You're just going ahead right up to the assumption. You're just assuming something, that you are whole, that you are the I am, that you are complete. You're just believing it. Remember, assumption is believing something without the evidence. You just choose it. And remember, you're assuming every single day, but you're just assuming stuff that you don't want. So yeah, you can assume something without the evidence. You can do it because you're already doing it. The other way that you can look at this is just another way of how things are taught. This is more normal, considered normal in the 3D, and the way that a lot of maybe channels teach it. And I used to feel like this too, that you go from the bottom up. So in other words, like you have to climb the ladder to get up here. This is more effort. And what do I mean by that is, let me convince myself and get to the level of spirit knows. Remember what that quote is, right? Spirit knows and the law obeys. Let me convince myself. This is where all the efforting of trying to affirm or trying to use a technique or process, and that's okay, right? But what I want to share with you is that you can go right up to just assuming it all, because you already are. Do you see? Inductive reasoning starts from it's separation. It's trying to piece it together, trying to understand, okay, if I wanted this, how would it happen? And then you start using your rationalization. You want practical ways. This is, or like Abraham Hicks talks about, swimming upstream, right? So you're struggling here. This is where the struggle is. And you feel like you're fighting and you're having to muscle it out, right? And you're just like, I put that little elbow grease in it, that you got to keep hammering this out until you convince yourself that you are this, that you are the all. Do you see? That you got to work to get to that assumption that you do believe that you have your desires, right? This is all from seeing is believing, right? This is where you start. You're like, okay, I got to see it to believe it. And then you start working your way up to try to get to this point of believing is seeing. But you're stuck down here in more inductive reasoning, trying to understand it, trying to get into all the nitty-gritty details. You don't have to. You just assume who you are. You assume, and that power within you is on 724 and it's not leaving you. It never goes anywhere. And all you do is you go within and you trust it. You're like, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go ahead and trust that I am, that power within me. I'm going to go ahead and trust it, even though I don't see it and I've never believed it, or I can't touch anything, I can't smell anything. I'm going to trust his power that created me, that power, God, manifested you, manifested me, manifested every single one of us, and he dwells in us, and we are his eyes. We are the eyes through which he sees. Like I mentioned, another client said he is watching the movie through our eyes, but it's already done. So he just gets to watch the movie and eat popcorn and watch us unfold it. I'm not saying he's a person, because he's not. It's just a presence. So not eating popcorn, but it's a funny visual, right? He's just like hanging out, watching us go through the motions of getting what we want. That's like the movie. Do you see? Or you can come down here and he's watching the movie down here too, through your eyes of the struggle, of the separation, that you got to create these rules and conditions and beliefs you got to overcome. You got to be a different person. You got to fix yourself. You got to feel good enough. You got to convince other people that you're good enough. You got to, like one of my clients said, I have to make sure that this person sees that I've changed and that I'm a different person. No, you don't. You are perfect. You are perfect. So you can either do this deductively or inductively, and it is your choice. It is your free will. No one's making you do this inductively or deductively. It is your choice. You can choose to believe, and believing it is seeing it. Or you can say, I'm going to see it and then I'll believe it. It is still your choice. No one can choose that for you, because that is your free will. God himself, and I've read this in many books already from different spiritual teachers, that God himself couldn't even force free will on you. It couldn't even make it a condition for you being human and alive. Free will couldn't even be a condition of you being human. No, because even that would be restrictive. So God made you in his image, which automatically you are free will itself. That is who you are, not because it was given to you, but it is who you are. All right, my loves. I intend that this video sat just perfectly within you, and you let some unnecessary step go or some unnecessary belief go, and that you continue to stand in the promise that you are everything and you have everything, and that you don't let anything in this 3D shake you down, because you are the cause of it all. All right, thank you so much for liking the video. Thank you for subscribing to The Rosey Life, and thank you for sharing my content with others, so that helps The Rosey Life grow. And I really appreciate you guys being here, and thank you for your success story, that your emails, you guys are coming in. I love you guys so, so much, because you all know, I believe, and I assume you are all freaking amazing. All right, bye.